Our friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and I'm just doing some. I'm just kind of trying out some Monsters Memories again today. I know they went through. So I'm not quite sure what was involved, but I know they went through some class balancing. So I thought I would. I've started a new shaman, so I thought I would have a look and see what's what. Looking at the spell lists and stuff, it all kind of seems very similar. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure if it's just if it's bad RNG, but I remember this problem before. But unfortunately, like first impressions are really not favourable from a combat point of view. Like I think I've killed 3 or 4 mobs now, and it's just like it's a tedious like bullet sponge type thing at level 1. I'm level 1 killing level 1 mobs. I timed the last fight I had was with a decaying skeleton, and I timed it, and it was over 3 minutes. We were just standing there, just like trading blows. I used my whole mana bar to heal myself on level 1 mob. I remember this kind of problem before, and it was a problem, and they kind of change it, and then they change it back to the same problem. I don't quite understand what that is about, but my characters just miss one, miss, and even when you get it looks as though all the hit points have been increased a lot on mobs, even the level 1 mobs. I've done 11 damage, 12 damage. I'm not even halfway through the mob. That seems pretty tanky. Yeah. Well, that was better. I'm not sure if maybe like the damage ratio for strength is just too low, and then you just keep hitting for ones and missing and whatever it is. I'm not sure. I gained a point. I mean, I purposely actually. I think I started one of my traits. I think I picked warrior on purpose because it's an issue that I've had before, which I think starts your your attack skill on 5 or whatever or something, and it increases it more. Not many people around, but also just a real lack of mob density too as well. This has essentially been it, like where the mob is out regenerating my damage. It's just, it's not a good experience. How we're getting there. Oh, jeez. Okay. I mean, it's weird. There's no there's no one here really. And this is a newbie zone, and there's no mobs. The density of mobs is so low. It's weird. Okay. worried about level 2 mobs. They turn the audio up a bit, maybe. Settings, audio. See how that goes. Whew. Holy smoke. Is this how long level 1 fights are supposed to take? Jeez. I guess this guy's level 2 or 3. Actually, let's see what he's got on him first. Take the stuff. Yeah, that you'd just be there all day. We will run the yellow mob to the guards. Let's see. What's the button? Oops, no, don't do that, you noob. What's the button for skills? Can't remember. Did it stop? Something still. I can still see the bat coming. I think it's still coming. Yep, it's still coming. I do like the elemental mob models. Very similar to classic EverQuest, but I like the glowy nature of them. It says I feel tired. No shit. What's the skill? But look for the skills. I can't remember what the hotkey is. Might be able to hear some seagulls because of the weather. That's pretty. We've got there's a lot of seagulling going on at the moment. At 4 o'clock in the morning it starts. That's good fun. Just going to see if I can buy. Oh man. What have I got? Just going to see if I can buy just a direct damage spell. Please buy something. Nope. Okay, I'm going to run all the way back to the vendors. Yeah. It's kind of a bit weird, I guess, balancing out. I mean, I personally kind of never understood, like, you know, the time to kill thing. If you've got, like in D&D, for example, you've got a mob, it's got an AC, you roll to hit it, and it's random. You know, it's almost impossible for the DM to have any control over, really, over the speed you could kill it at. And I kind of feel that when you've got a game where like each kind of encounter seems to have been balanced to a point where it's kind of all the same. There's not a huge amount of variance. Then I'm not sure how you do that. First of all, but yeah, it kind of feels like you should have a fight where, I don't know, you just, maybe you luckily get in a few max hits and you kill the mob almost straight away. And then you don't. But this kind of just seems to be balanced, so it's just a bit of a swing fest, you know, until maybe it's a stat thing. I mean, I put most of my stats into wisdom, some into stamina. Maybe maybe need to be a bit more balance than that in this game. But it doesn't feel random, if you know what I mean. The fights don't feel random. I kind of feel in an RPG, there's RNG, but then obviously your progress and your build or whatever is all based around you lowering the RNG. So it's kind of more in your favour, if you know what I mean. Oops. Oh, did I buy the spell? You buy a scroll flame? Oh, there is. Okay, well, if we need to, we can blast things, I guess. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure how many of you guys are playing at the moment, or what you're playing. See if we can kill a level 2 mob, shall we? And my direct damage spell seems to take less mana than I remember. So maybe now it's about just spamming your spell, spamming your spells more often. I think spiders are level 2, aren't they? Okay. So how long it takes us to get back on our feet. It's interesting how ponderous this type of MMO feels to kind of get going. So I sort of remember some of the polls I did before about people, you know, they just don't have the time or the attention span to kind of get through the, you know, the periods where I'm not quite sure what the answer is. Maybe the answer is to have like quite a number of quests available. I guess a bit like WoW did, just to speed up the first few levels to make the player feel like they're making some reasonable progress at the start before you kind of get into the sitting around camping kind of thing, you know. I think there might be more level 2 beetles outside on the next zone, so we're going to have a look. Double attack there, it did. Trying to see what it's like turtling through the fight. Always kill the skeletons. Always. Our backs to the wall here. I think the flame. I think the flame damage spell is doing a couple of points more damage as well than it was. I remember when I first started playing, and I played a character that logged in, started in the zone behind, and the first thing you saw was yeah, was that, which was pretty cool. Just kind of saw it in a distance, the green glow. I think I must have logged in the evening as well, because that's how I remember seeing it. The June Scarab used to be level 3, so I'll see if I can. Let's see if we can burn one of those down, test it out. I think we've got someone on the news called a heat dome of death or something. I think they called it. So it's pretty warm here at the moment, but it's kind of manageable. Like even someone like me who's like body temperature regulation has not worked that well for a long time. But it's manageable. Kind of a bit worried about people, family that I know in London. It's a bit warmer there, just in the sense that obviously they're away from the coast and it's more everything's more closed in. But come all these little hacks, like dabbing your forearms and your head with water and just letting it dry on its own, kind of thing, you know. We might win. We expend all of our... Uh-oh. We still might lose. Oh, no. I'll be a winner. We're a winner. Oh, nice. Got a carapace as well. But that was a proper blowout. I wouldn't say we got a huge amount of XP for that either, really. I was watching a dev stream yesterday. Oops, sorry, I just knocked the mic. I do. I mean, I find them hard to kind of watch now because it's you just, for a lot of the people commenting, it's just like an echo chamber, really. But it's interesting, like listening to the conversations, because I kind of often it can almost feel like you're kind of listening to a conversation of between people who, like, I don't know, maybe played EverQuest but didn't really like it, so they're kind of doing everything they can to take the formula and, you know, change it. It's quite weird listening, you know, because you still get like you still get people, like you get the same people who kind of wear their classic badge, but are also the same people who don't really sound like they ever really liked EverQuest, but they're kind of saying they've got to, like, you know, they're saying it because they've got to, because they might lose some kind of cred points or something, you know, that kind of thing. I think there's too much discussion about things that made EverQuest what it was, that people don't like, and so they kind of want changed. And I'm not sure if it's a situation where kind of people just want the game to be attuned to, like as I said, they played EverQuest, and their takeaway was that actually I didn't really like it really, and so they want the game kind of attuned to what they want. So which is like a classic MMO, but there's all these. I'm not talking about even about quality of life stuff. I'm actually talking about like quite big changes to like mechanically and that kind of thing. I think I said before, but like you know, conversations around, you know, trying to stop high levels from camping named mobs in low level dungeons. People don't like that. You know, like level restricting equipment. Yeah, all that kind of thing. And kind of like management of encounters as well, that EverQuest kind of just let you work it out for yourself. Like I think in the stream there was a thing where they were trying to incorporate a system where if you're in a group, if there's two groups go for a mob, then I think whichever grouping engages it first, the other group gets teleported out of the room, is locked out of the room. And I think that was like a form of control that classic MMOs never really had. Really, it didn't really seem to be a requirement. Obviously, you get people arguing and stuff, but I mean that could. I remember doing some raiding stuff and like racing for a mob, and if you got it, then the other guild would just hang around, you know, to see if you died, if you wiped, and if you did wipe, then you know they would just go in. You know, that was the, and it was exciting. You know, it was you weren't kind of watching the fight almost like from the stands in an arena. You know, you were locked out of the. Yeah, because I think the problem with I think the reason that EverQuest classic EverQuest was so good, because the complexity was actually in the encounters themselves. It wasn't all of the systems around it. Because if you introduce a system like that, then so say the group wipes. So if the group wipes, then what happens? Or the group has to run away. Like how do they exit? How do they run away? If you can't enter the zone and you're locked out of it, how do they? I mean, they can kind of then locked into the fight until they either win or lose. They die, and then what happens as soon as the last group member dies? Does it open up so the other group can engage the mob and stuff? I don't know. It all just seems like. I think I've said it. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I've seen this in single player games as well, where it just feels like developers now are, instead of letting players get on with it themselves in a sandboxy environment, there's so much control over what the players are doing, almost as though the developers are scared of they're just too scared of what the players are doing, rather than letting the players work it out themselves and letting the players kind of do cool things. I think it's yeah. And I suppose you've got the situation where if you're in a say you're in a guild and you've got two groups, like how does the encounter recognize that that there are two groups? Maybe you can create like a raid and it identifies a raid, but then again it's all these mechanics going in to try to make a system work that that worked anyway. And I think the only reason that this thing's happening is because in the echo chamber, you know, the vocal minority complains about the fact that, oh, I don't like someone interfering in my fight. You know, so no one likes that, obviously. But I think that sort of thing is better served by a play nice policy, you know, and if things do go tits up, then that's how it is. I think the thing as well, also, there's like almost like and this isn't everything now, like everything is so weak and soft, it almost feels like there's it wants to be an avoidance of like conflict. Like this kind of like too much policing. But outside of that kind of like control of the environment, I think the biggest issue is just that there just seems to be. I was going to do a video about it, but I couldn't be asked at the end of the day, honestly. But like I was having a chat with someone a while ago, we had a conversation. Hey mate, how you doing? And we just came to the conclusion through playing games and reading discourse and stuff that there's just a vocal minority of people who don't really like classic MMOs, but they claim to. And it's the same people who kind of want things changed to suit their suit their vision, as opposed to what the vision of a classic MMO is. I'm going to die here probably. I could zone, be lazy and zone, I suppose. Yeah, it's I think that, I mean, there are things that I don't like about EverQuest, but I wouldn't remove them, because all of the things that you like and you don't like are part of the greater whole. You know, they made EverQuest kind of what it was. I think it's like what I was saying about the systems that people, a couple of systems I spoke about level restricting equipment, and people moaning about the fact that high levels of camping lower level mobs for a magic item and stuff and all that kind of thing, and guilds and stuff locking down mobs, that kind of thing. And I just think that's just all part of it. You know, it's it almost feels like people want like a really safe environment where they get what they want all the time. You know, I mean, it's weird because they're the same sort of people who will probably complain about something like EverQuest Legends. You know, that is kind of, in to some extent, implementing the systems that they want. You know, but they'll kind of like frown upon it and stuff. And yeah. I don't. Yeah, but that was. I mean, I was going to do a video about it, but I couldn't be bothered. But yeah, I was talking to someone, and my experiences doing a channel and stuff, and these experiences of playing. It just felt like there's a group of people now kind of controlling the narrative, who just didn't like EverQuest. Really, they didn't like. Even to a point where you see people kind of giving like misinformation about EverQuest to kind of fit their you know. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, I find it easy to differentiate between them. I kind of feel that you've got pre-WoW and you've got post-WoW, and I would say that any modernization is an MMO where, like, even if it started off as a classic MMO, I think any MMO that began to like include things that were made popular because of WoW, I think that's kind of where they lose their yeah, I think where they move into a more modern. I think there's a reason why classic EverQuest players like consider Up to Velius to be, you know, the most classic, I guess. I think, yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's not even really about like what I like or I don't like. I just think, you know, it's like it's like it's like, as I said, there's things about EverQuest that I don't like, but I wouldn't change them. Like I wouldn't go on to Discord and keep going on and on about the fact that, oh, I don't like the fact that some high level player is camping my camp. You know, because that's just what it was. It was, as I said before. I know I'm just repeating myself, but it's all of those things make up the whole, even the things that you don't like. And if you start playing around with them and moving them, then I think, and removing them or changing them, I think you've kind of got. I think I've got a damage shield. So yeah, I think you lose that. Oh, I've got a phone call. Oh, I will answer it shortly. Yeah, I kind of think you lose that. I think you lose that feeling, that vibe of. But I think the problem is though is that everything becomes like an echo chamber, and to a certain extent, you know, my feeling, I noticed it, is that developers are quite happy to do that, you know, because I guess that's just all they want at the end of the day. You know, they don't want too much pushback, they don't want too much grief. So you kind of, you propagate like a, as I said, like I mean, I used to quite enjoy watching. I used to quite enjoy watching like developer streams and stuff, but they just got to a point where they just became, as I said, they just become echo chambers where everyone just repeats the same stuff over and over. You know, is there a destroy button? I can't remember. Thank you, Mr. Druid, Mrs. Druid, whoever that is, who's. Bar debate in this game. Yeah, it's like that thread on the Discord about charm that just went on and on and on, and I think that's a perfect example of someone who just didn't like EverQuest. Yeah. And then what happens is that developers listen and they start mucking around with charm, etc. And in the end, you end up with an enchanter that's just less fun to play. You know, that's the whole thing. That's a whole, whether it was intentional or not or whatever, it doesn't matter. The whole kind of vibe of classic EverQuest was, here's this class and all the tools, and you know, let's have some fun. You know, it's kind of, I mean, obviously they balanced it so, you know, you're not soloing like raids and stuff, but even then, like on, you know, it's just something that I just don't think would happen in games now. That free form, allowing players to discovery of their class and what they can do and stuff, is that on, you know, I remember on P99 there was some people who got to a point where they could kind of like break into the plane of fear on their own, and you know, and solo some stuff and whatnot, and I'm all for that. That's what we should be doing, you know, as long as there's an element, as long as there's a strong enough element of risk, you know. It's this is the first time I've kind of logged in for a while. I think it's what I said earlier, like about I had kind of like a bit of a brief conversation with someone that I know, and we just kind of came to the same conclusion for slightly different reasons, but and also some of the same reasons. It's just that it's just like the indie MMO scene has just become an echo chamber of people who I don't really feel like classic MMOs, or they didn't like EverQuest, or there was a lot about them they didn't like, and so they want the current game in development to be different to that, and they want to, and enough of the systems are kind of being changed and compromised that I think it kind of loses the spirit of what, you know, what those games were. You heard someone yesterday bemoaning charm. Yeah, I don't. I don't. And the reason for it here is that it's not valid, really. Yeah, I mean, oh, is that still going on? I mean, basically there was. Yeah, basically there's like the biggest thread ever, I think, on any MMO Discord about charm. And it was basically just someone who just didn't like it, thought it was too powerful, thought it trivialized content. I mean, I've played on P99 now for, I don't know, over 12 years. And like I never got an enchanted to 60. I think 52 was the highest I got. So it's not like I'm trying to defend anything or whatever. It just, for me, it just is what it is. But there are people that just, as I said, there are just people that I don't really think like classic MMOs, and they seem to have, because they're always there and they've created their echo chamber. I think they're the ones who just dominate the conversation, and I think whether they say they do or not, I just get the impression that devs listen to them. You know, it's the same. It's not just this game; it's the other games as well. But yeah. It's like as a player, but and not a developer, like just taking EverQuest and then just trying to twist it to whatever your ideal would be. You know, if you could have your ideal EverQuest, and that's just not the point of EverQuest. Because the thing is, like someone else's, and even my ideal EverQuest would be shit, because then it wouldn't be EverQuest. That's the whole point, I think, that people miss, is that EverQuest is EverQuest. Everything about it is brilliant, or all the small components, the millions of them, and what make it brilliant. And it's not about what I like or what someone else likes. It's about what the game is and what it represented, you know, and stuff. I mean, I don't know how far any of these things are going to go in the game, in Monsters of Memory. It's all in development, but you know, if you start to see items that are level restricted, if you start to get people locked out of content because they're too high level, you know, if you copy a class from EverQuest, but then people are moaning about stuff about it, you know, and then you change it so that it's kind of becomes like a shadow of itself, then I kind of just feel that you're just going down the wrong path. Essentially, it might be your path, but you know, I don't think it's kind of then recognizable as a. That's also, yeah. I mean, you say it's too. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people saying the same stuff about slows in EverQuest, and they didn't like slowing and all that kind of stuff, and you know. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I think people are so caught up in this the M bit of the MMO. Well, the second M in MMO, that I don't think they realise that like EverQuest didn't force you into doing anything, even grouping. You know, it allowed you essentially to attempt to play how you wanted to, and for the most part, it didn't say, you know, you can't do this. A lot of it was just based on your you know, it's based on your ability essentially, and how well you knew the game. I mean, I remember back in the day watching all the great enchanters doing their thing, but the amount of times that they died, you know, it wasn't a given. They didn't just win. It wasn't you know, it wasn't that overpowered. And that's what maybe that's what is difficult for developers now to be able to implement. Like because I think I've always said of RNG, like the beauty of EverQuest was the RNG was almost, I don't know, it almost felt like it was balanced by Einstein, like a genius, you know, because it it never, obviously I mean, sometimes I got angry and I thought to myself, oh, this game is cheating, you know, but it kind of was, when you take a step back, it wasn't really. You know, you had the same with D&D. I mean, I guess that's where they got it from. You know, D&D was all about RNG, but it was about lowering your character's RNG to a point where at the back of your mind, the RNG was still there, and you were like, oh, it was enough at the back of your mind there that it still caused you some anxiety. But through class progression and whatever it may be, you know, you could lower your bad chances. You could lower your chances of getting a bad roll, essentially. Maybe that's just too hard to implement. Maybe it was just a work of genius, you know. Because when you think about it, other games didn't really have that. Ultra Online didn't really have that. I mean, Ultra Online, like EverQuest, really, well, more so than EverQuest, let you solo everything. But that was more about kind of brute forcing. That was more about taming free dragons and just going around slaughtering everything. You know, it was a bit of a different experience. I mean, Asheron's Call really kind of removed all of that nuance, didn't it, really? I think, like, spellcasters in Asheron's Call had damage spells and protection spells, and that was kind of it, really, wasn't it? You know, so you kind of built yourself around... There wasn't really any crowd control or charming or anything like that, you know. It was... But I mean, I don't want anything to be balanced. I don't want things to be balanced. That's the whole issue. Trying to homogenize everything, so it all feels the same. Like, if a warrior can do stuff similar to a, I don't know, like a wizard or a necro in about the same time, well, that's crap, in my opinion. It's not. How can you balance that without making the game just feel incredibly stale? I don't see how you can. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like when we was talking, I think the two things we agreed on, I think, was that, and I've seen it quite a lot actually since EverQuest Legends is in the recent beta, is that, you know, the classic MMO player base, for the most part, just doesn't have the time to invest that they could invest. And something like EverQuest Legends is a good medium for that. And I'm not saying that this should be this should be like EverQuest Legends, by the way. Not at all. But I think there are certainly some things to think about. Yeah, I think it was, people just don't have the time. If you think about it, like, if you're, so as I said, I'm not sure how long I've been playing P99 for. I don't know when my first video was. Was it 2011, 2012 maybe? I can't remember. I was definitely playing in 2014 when I first got sick. So I know it was at least 12 years ago. But if you're 40 and you started playing, let's say you're 40 now and you remember EverQuest, you played it as a kid, or you played it with your dad or whatever, and you've been playing 99, you've been playing P99 in 2016. That's 10 years. So that's like a quarter of your life, you know. And a lot has probably happened to people in that time. You know, you get into your late 30s, your 40s, your early 40s. Like, life is hectic. You've probably got kids who maybe are teenagers. They're doing different things at school. There's more money is required. You're working harder. That's just life. That's just how it is. And I think the other thing as well, of course, is that, like, a lot of people said to me that they and some people who, like, place no blame, but there's quite a few people who started playing an MMO because they'd seen me playing it, and I kind of felt a bit bad about that. But yeah, some people said they went into a game with certain expectations, and as the development went on, the game just changed to a point where those expectations that I had of someone saying, you know, you go onto a stream and someone goes, oh my god, this is like the next EverQuest. I feel like I'm living in 1999 again, which is obviously bullshit. It's just like, you know, I don't mind people being hyperbolic about stuff sometimes. But yeah, but that I'll say that there's two main reasons that I've spoken to people who have stopped playing indie MMOs. Just the time. I'm not sure how you balance that. There must be a better way. There must be a better way of sitting there for 5 minutes whacking on a mob, you know. And also just from a game systems point of view, they went into it with certain expectations. And bearing in mind these are all EverQuest players that I speak to, because that's mostly what my channel's been around. Yeah, and things were just not how they expected. That's how it is, you know. I actually think if you kind of remove the second one, it solves a lot of problems. Like, I was going to say, like nowadays you have to do it, but it was only the same in EverQuest. You know, your game has to allow people to log in and make progress on their own if that's what they have to do or that's what they want to do, and feel like it's meaningful. You know, I just feel that that's what EverQuest did, and there's no reason why any other game shouldn't have to do that. I think that's a requirement. Yeah, you have your raid, git stuff, and whatever it may be, where you need a certain amount of people for, etc., etc. EverQuest got that. That's fine. But I just think it's a big mental barrier. Yeah, I mean, I like you, I remember when I was 29 when EverQuest came out. Yeah. I kind of guess like the older you are, you come at it from a different perspective as well, because we went into EverQuest with a lot more experience of gaming than like our kids or whatever who were kind of watching you play it or playing it for the first time or whatever. Can I use that shield? Hang on, what am I doing wrong? Can I stick a shield in my left hand? Oh, okay. I just can't use it, basically. Yeah, well, I'd kind of come from Ultra Online, so by that time I was well invested in the MMO scene, I guess, and so EverQuest was kind of like the next one we moved on to. You know, like the few people that I knew playing it, we imported copies from America because it wasn't available at the time. There were no European servers at the time, so yeah, we just. Oh, I don't want to do that. I think one of the things is that you don't really see, like, there's not an awful lot of it. Well, there isn't any like analysis of a game like mechanically anymore. Really, it feels like. It's there's like there's kind of like you kind of like got quite a big group of content creators who kind of play a game, play MMOs. But I guess they just kind of play them to play them. They just seem to go along with whatever is going on. It's just, I guess, kind of like just an experience for them. Yeah, and I kind of envy that in a way, but it's like, but as I said, like I guess kind of like part of me has often felt guilty in the past where I've played an MMO and been pretty positive about it. If someone buys it and they don't like it, it's like, oh god, that was my fault, kind of thing. Not that anyone's ever blamed me, but I just felt yeah. But anyway, that the TLDR version of that it's in the wrong place right at the end is that I kind of just what I said before. I kind of just feel that the conversation around classic MMOs is one of I didn't like this, didn't like that, and I don't want it in a a new game. It's a bit like I don't know. I was terribly disappointed in Asmongold, like bigging up Capcom for their Resident Evil remakes. I mean, I don't know. I know that I think they probably sold well and stuff. Maybe the new Resident Evil game sold well. I don't know, but really, completely lost the essence of what made a Resident Evil game. Same with the thingy games as well. Silent Hill games, Silent Hill remakes. Completely different game essentially. I think that's what it is. I think those games have just been modified for the journalists, if you like, the modern audience who can't play the original games because they're too difficult. I'm not sure, mate. Actually, I'm honestly not sure. I was in town and there were a few people running around, so I'm not sure about that thing. Well, that's another thing that I saw. Actually, I've seen it in like indie MMOs, but also I saw it in EverQuest Legends yesterday. Is that people's attitudes towards a certain type of gamer who is a gamer, in the sense that they'll come in and they want to be as efficient as they can and play as best as they can, as opposed to just coming in and killing one mob, then sitting around for 10 minutes talking to someone. Yeah, like, and what I've noticed about the games, I don't know if it's kind of like a kind of like a chill vibe that the developers give off. But I've seen a lot of people kind of say, "Oh, this game, it's not going to be like P99. You're not going to have all that toxicity and all that raiding and all that kind of stuff." And I'm kind of thinking, well, what sort of game? Again, I think to myself, what sort of game are you looking for then? I don't understand. Like, why would you think that a game that's like EverQuest or wants to be like EverQuest is what you think it's not? What's going to happen? All those people who game from like an efficiency point of view and they want to get to the end game as quickly as they can. What do you think? They're just going to be banned or something? Or I don't get it. Like, what are you? Again, it's about people looking at a classic MMO and not liking the aspects about it, and then they just want it to be how they want it to be, essentially. Thanks, dude, for the buffs again. I'm going to need to go to the thingy in a minute. I think go to the bank. Thank you. Yeah, my son's a bit like that. He I guess it's kind of like, it's all about your first game. It's like your first love, isn't it, really, I suppose. Where he like my two boys used to watch me play the game that I said it last stream, but the game they seem to remember most is Dark Age of Camelot. But my youngest son, who really got in heavily into MMOs, his first game was WoW, and that was his game, and that was what he played, you know. And I spoke to him about playing EverQuest, but he just wasn't never really interested. I don't think he had the Asmongold thing about old MMOs, you know. Yeah, he just wasn't for him for whatever reason. I think people can kind of sometimes purposely misunderstand your, you know, it's like, I mean, occasionally I've had people say to me, I mean, obviously this was before EverQuest Legends came out, but people say to me, oh, well, you moan about this game not being classic, but then you play EverQuest Legends. Well, yeah, I played New World as well because they were what they were, and you go into them knowing what they are. You know, New World didn't tell me that he's trying to hark back to a better time of MMOs. You know, EverQuest Legends is telling me what it is. It's a single player version of EverQuest. It's not saying to me, you know, it's not telling me that we're trying to hark back to when MMOs were great, make MMOs great again, and then I'm logging in and like I could pick free classes and whatever. You know, it's you know, and the audience for EverQuest Legends isn't going, oh, you should go back to WoW if you like this. But then at the same time being, but at the same time also complaining about systems that they didn't like in a classic MMO and wanting those changed. It's completely different. There's an awful lot of contradiction in the indie MMO scene at the moment, I find. Right, hang on, let's turn the gamma up. And I think, and the upshot of it, the thing is that it's like, you know, it's the thing, you know, it's the thing where it's like the definition of madness, where the same thing just keeps repeating, keep being repeated over and over again. So sorry, they start repeating something over and over again, expecting something different to happen, but it's not, and that's kind of what's happening. You know, no one's winning. That's the problem. I want someone to win. Like the games are not winning. Like despite someone going on Steam charts and trying to convince you that Pantheon's doing great or Embers Adrift is doing great. Yeah, there's only 20 people logged in, but it's still doing great. Despite people trying to convince you of that, like they're not. Like no one's winning. Like the players are not winning and the games are not winning. That's not. It's just not. You know, it's looking at figures and trying to work out how many subscribers there are is not. It's if you log into the game and you can't play it as an MMO, it's not functioning properly. I mean, it's like Asheron's not Asheron's Call. It's like Project Gorgon. You know, they went through a crazy period of thousands of people logging in. And I'm logging in now, and there's 20 or 30 people online. You know, it's not functioning as a. And you could see it happening. You could see very quickly over the course of a week or two the population going down, and as it was getting lower, there were people saying, "Oh, I really like the game, but I can't find a group to do anything." You know, and the player base who have been there since the game came out, you know, they don't care. They've got no sympathy. they'll just go, oh well, I can always get a group and a login. Yeah, well, because you're probably in a guild, like that. You know, when the 20 people that are online are probably all in your guild because you've all got together in a guild because you're the only people playing the game anymore. So yeah, of course you can. It's that attitude of the players as well, where you know, like people are telling them it's not working. It's not working. I can't get a group for it to do stuff that requires a group. And the answer is always, oh, well, it's you. It's not the game's issue. It's always your fault. It's always the player's fault who's saying this stuff. You know, it's just it's weird. It's weird how I said this before, but it's weird how there's a group of players who, like this hardcore group of players who develop these unhealthy relationships with a game. Just internally, they must be aware that there's a problem, but they won't say there's a problem. It's like that confirmation bias thing, or whatever the term is. Put like buying confirmation bias, you know, where you've invested so much time into it, so you have to say that everything's all right, otherwise, you know. Yeah, and we all lose, you know, because the game's just not populated anymore, and the developers can't be winning either, really. You know, I can't imagine they want it like that, but they don't seem to be they don't seem to want to, or to be able to change things to anyway every time I play an MMO we have this conversation. You literally probably go and watch any of my other streams and it's just the same, but there you go. What can you do? It's like I say when I talk to someone about politics, isn't it, is that you always say the same stuff. Well, yeah, because things are always the same. If things don't change, then what, you know, if things are the same, then what else are you supposed to discuss and talk about? Because things are not changing. You know, it's just, anyway. I do think you have to get it right out of the bat as well, like right out of the gates. You kind of have to get it right almost. I know it sounds harsh, but I just don't think people have got the time to muck around seeing if things change or whatever, or it gets better. I think you kind of got to grab people right at the start, I think, really. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's like when people say, well, maybe MMOs are not for you anymore, or these sort of games not for you anymore, which obviously is just another cope out of the many copes that they've got, because they just don't want to. I don't want it to be the game again. You know, as I said, it can't be the game. Like, I've invested all this money and time, so it can't possibly be the game because I can't possibly be wrong. So yeah, so you just end up in this cycle of games all doing the same thing. I mean, I'm desperate for an MMO to sink my teeth into that is claiming to be classic and is sticking by the roots of that. And although all of the talking points, I mean, there are other talking points as well that we could discuss, but all the talking points that I've made today, they might seem like small things in isolation, but they're not. It's a bit like Rings of Power on Amazon. Now, if you're adapting that, I don't. If you're trying to adapt Tolkien, like I'm not going to fault you for trying to adapt it, but if you adapt Tolkien and then you essentially change the whole, not just the lore, but the whole feeling of like how people spoke, how certain characters are, like their personalities, like when you change all that, particularly when you change it for ideological reasons, then, you know, because Tolkien has got kind of roots, it's got like a feeling, it's got like a, you know, a soul that you can't fuck with. Otherwise, it's not that thing. It's not that, you know. Rings of Power could be anything, really. I almost feel that like I kind of almost feel that like for me personally, like the next kind of classic inspired game that I play would probably I mean it could possibly be even completely different from the normal like tab targeting kind of like 6-second round. You know, it's not really I know some people like tab targeting and whatever, and it's a big thing for them and etc etc. But I don't. For me, it's not even really about that. It's about my character in the world, like my experience in the world. Like it is the game. Like it's one of the big mistakes that New World made. Like New World had too many barriers of entry. Not from difficulty, but just the developers actually just saying, you know, you can't do this unless this and this and this and this, and you can't do this, you can't do that unless you do this, and unless this is, you know, there was too much control. In New World, you couldn't even go into a dungeon on your own, just to faff about. The game didn't allow it. People did do it, but you had to get your guild friends to get on a group with you, and then, you know, I mean, an MMO that literally bars you from going in a dungeon because you're on your own is a fail, basically. You know, it's those kind of barriers and stuff. Yeah, I think for me it doesn't even need to be a game that is where the combat is tab targeting and you stand around. It's more about like classic, because I mean, obviously, like Ultima Online didn't have that, and that's a classic MMO. Asheron's Call is a bit different to EverQuest. I think that's regarded as a classic MMO. You mentioned Dark Age of Camelot. You know, Dark Age of Camelot, I think, took a lot more from EverQuest than the other games did, from a mechanical combat point of view. But it's more about me going out into the world and there's no barriers, and I can essentially treat it as a proper sandbox. There's nothing that's going to locking me out of anywhere. The only thing that should lock you out, I think, in a classic MMO is your character from a level point of view. There's no other reason really for anything else to lock you out. None of these arbitrary barriers where there's a magical force field that recognizes that you're this level or you're on your own, so you can't come in. I'm sorry, I'm the magical barrier of detecting how many people are in your group, and I'm not letting you in, and all that sort of rubbish, you know. It's not sure what level these are. I'm only level 3. Well, let's give it a go, eh? Oops, didn't want to, that's sure. But I do think that people do want more of a curated experience. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed. It's like it's like the things that people focus on as classic, like just to you know, so they can still wear the badge. You know, things like, oh, it's not dark enough at night, and oh my god, there's a map. You know, all these really systems now that are almost not even relevant anymore, really. Let's be honest. What with the internet and technology being as it is, you know, it seems to be those are the systems that people focus on, that they consider to be classic, but the actual mechanics of the game just seem to be completely ignored, pretty much, you know. But then I've always thought in anything that I don't think the best I don't think people are creative at their best, you know, in an environment where there's no conflict, or everyone's on board, you know, those kind of quotes. Like I don't think the best has ever come out of that. You know, standing around. I mean, I just think just sitting around having a shouting match about a particular mechanic is quite healthy, actually. I think, you know, particularly like how it used to be. Like, I don't know what it's like now, and you know, I'm not saying it's better, but well, I think statistically it's a thing, you know, where like I think men, particularly in general, are able to have a bust up with their mates, and an hour later they're down the pub having a drink, you know, laughing about it. It's just that's how men, I think, traditionally deal with those kind of situations. You know, I think it's quite healthy to have some conflict and some. Yeah, I don't remember how humid Italy is. I've been a few times, but when it's been hot, but it always feels different. The problem here is it's not just hot. It feels like you're surrounded by, well, you are surrounded by moisture, so it feels worse for some reason. I don't know. I've seen some Americans on YouTube, like coming from hot places in America, and living in the UK, and like this summer going like, what the hell is this? What is this? It's like 10 degrees lower than where I come from. But what is this? It's terrible. It feels terrible. It does. It feels terrible. You constantly feel you constantly feel damp, like a hot dampness, which is just, and you can't get away from it. You go outside and it's the same. Like there's no, you know, there's no getting away from it. Oh, I might as well pick up the old thing. I think I can go and turn them in for a thing. A thing. I've spoken to a lot of people in the past as well who actually stopped playing P99 because they said, I've just had enough. You know, I've had enough. And those people also, and I've done it as well, you know, like we go into a new indie MMO and you just had enough. And I don't know, I just wonder if it's just the whole formula of it now that a lot of people just, I mean, I love repetitive things. It's just how my brain works. But I don't know. I kind of almost feel that, like, I write a lot of stuff about indie MMO design, like what I would do, and I'm sure most of it's shit. But I almost kind of feel that. Do you remember the intro to Daggerfall, where you're essentially there's a shipwreck and you end up in a dungeon? And I just kind of wonder how much more interesting it would be if your character woke up somewhere where there was like an immediate you're immediately kind of thrown in at the at the deep end, in the sense that you're in an adventure. You're not appearing where everyone else appears in the world, and you've got a note you've got to go and give in, that kind of thing. Maybe something's happened. It could be different class. Maybe something's happened. You're in a dungeon. You got to escape. That's the intro to the game. It's not like a crappy. It's not an intro just for intro's sake. Whereas like the EverQuest Legends, where you talk to a bloke and he sends you around just to learn stuff. It's actually like a challenging place. You can obviously get out of, but you're immediately in a situation where you're fighting. Maybe you're immediately put in a situation where you're fighting mobs, like you're in some sort of faction fight. So you're fighting some guys who have kidnapped you, and you're immediately fighting the bad guys, whoever they may be within the world, whoever the evil faction is. You're immediately aware of them and you're fighting them. A bit like EverQuest actually did, really. Like if you start a high elf and you take the time to go around and talk to, I don't know what I'm doing, and you take the time to go around and talk to some of the high elf trainers and stuff, like they will say, we're at war with Crushbone or whatever. What's the dungeon in, is it Lesser Fey or Greater Fey? I can't remember, but the Orc dungeon, like they immediately say, we're at war with them, go and kill some, etc. So you immediately kind of thrown into that kind of thing. Or maybe the dungeon's got undead in it, that kind of thing. Maybe it needs that. Maybe this like spawning and killing rats for hours is just not, it's just not doing it for people anymore. I don't know. Like maybe you could treat the opening bit kind of a bit like a story driven thing, where there's like an immediacy about it. Like you don't just spawn in and it's like, I've got my note that I've got to go and give in, and I've got to kill rats and spiders, and like get right in there, killing the evil guys, killing the skeletons, killing all the stuff. Yeah, maybe we just don't need to kill rats right at the beginning. Maybe it could just be more interesting, more fun. Maybe you can be introduced to your skills a lot earlier. If you're an enchanter, maybe you start off with a bit of crowd control and stuff, and immediately you're using it at level 1 to try and work your way out of the dungeon or whatever it is where you are. Does it have to be everyone starts outside the city and you got your note, and it's kind of like maybe kind of introduce it in a more of like a single player role playing kind of way. Yeah, I don't mind that though. Like you need the sweaties. I think they're as important as not. I mean, I think a lot of the best content that I've watched from P99 over the years, from what you would call a sweaty, I guess. I think it's. I think that's good. It's funny also where like you get systems that feel like they're dumbed down or simplified for whatever reason, but then you kind of get systems like this where I'm thinking, I want to sell stuff. Why can't I just go to a vendor and sell stuff? There doesn't seem to be anything mechanically in the game where there's a reason why I've got to go and sell certain stuff at a certain vendor. Why not just make it like EverQuest? Why is this particular thing singled out to be stuff that requires more time for you to do? There are just some strange decisions surrounding that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, we have so far, but that is unusual. Like we had a really hot spell, and then it cooled down a little bit, but now we're into another hot spell. Yeah, so as I was saying, I think you need to have sweaties as much as you have anything else. I think really. I think that without them, the games just wouldn't be what they were. I think that think that's kind of where the challenge comes from. Is I think there's a balance. I think obviously where I mean that's what I was going to. I kind of sidetracked myself, but that's what I was going to go back to. What you said earlier is that people moaning about the sweaties like playing the game a certain way, and they go into a game thinking, oh, this is the game where there aren't going to be any sweaties, they're not going to be allowed. Well, no, I think I did finish the point, didn't I? And I'm kind of like, well, what are you talking about? Like, you're not going to be allowed. You know, how are you going to manage that? It's a game where people are going to play, and they're going to play how they want to play. You know, and if the game is implementing systems to stop them playing in a certain way that you don't like. Oh, that gave me some scarab legs. I wasn't sure what I was going to get for that. I think the breastplate must be like 4 then or something, I think. Yeah, like honestly, like I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you why I don't play P99 as much now, because there's so much of just P99, just that classic era that I haven't experienced and done, and it's not that I don't like camping. Like I can sit at a spot and just camp all day and just kill a mob over and over, you know, and stuff. So it's not that. I can't actually tell you what it is. I don't know if it's just. I don't know if it's because all the people, even though I soloed a lot and stuff, I don't know if it's because all the people that I knew stopped playing, so there isn't that community thing around it. There isn't that community thing around the channel anymore. I mean, I noticed recently that 1 or 2 people that I used to watch playing P99 have started new characters. But when you look at their videos, like my videos as well, is that the view count is a lot lower than it used to be. So there's just a general lack of interest, it seems, now in the in the game for whatever reason, you know. I think obviously things like Hero's Journey and EverQuest Legends affects that, obviously, you know, because it's giving players a version of EverQuest where they don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing. You know, it's all just about them essentially. Which is all right. I mean, that's not a problem, you know. So where do I sell? Oh, it's selling here. Okay. I think also maybe that's partly the issue with indie MMOs is that you're kind of trying to get people invested in something that they. I know that obviously EverQuest's been around for a long time, right? And I guess you can just get tired of EverQuest, but to a certain extent, I don't mean this in a mean way, but you're trying to get people invested in a game that's not as good as a game that they've kind of lost. That's similar to a game that they've kind of lost interest in, but it's not as good, you know. So how do you do that? I kind of think you have to think of new ways of keeping the audience, as it were. I don't know. So like having an introduction where you like your bam, you know, you're in, like I'm playing a shaman, right? So shaman, I don't know what I start off. I get a damage spell, get a healing spell, maybe I get root level 1, a buff, bosh. You know, you start off in an environment, in a situation where you know you're immediately got to fight your way out. You've got the basic stuff of what your class needs to do it, and off you go, kind of thing, you know. But I guess that just requires more development time, more I think burnout is a real thing, though. I think along with what I said, where people don't have the time, but they kind of want the time um, to play in a classic MMO. I think that a lot of people are burnt out, but they kind of don't want to be burnt out. So I guess all these things contribute to the fact that the MMOs have like a big population at the start, and it just tails off very quickly. It's like there's a whole combination of things happening that means that people are just not sticking with it. They're not seeing it through. Well, I've mostly been mucking around setting up retro gaming stuff, essentially. Just trying to pick up some bits as cheap as I can. Yeah, just playing games that you turn them on and they're just games straight away. You're mechanically invested straight away, like from the very moment you pick up the controller, kind of thing. There's games on the PC like that as well, but I've been kind of making a little list of like I'm a big hoarder as well, a big collector. I used to collect retro games. I mean, the whole scene is an absolute mess now, but I still enjoy looking on eBay at stuff and whatnot. I recently picked up a few Sega Saturn bits that are just cheap. You can still pick up cheap stuff cheap if you're willing to watch the auctions till the end. Well, I picked up a couple of Japanese games, a couple of PAL games, but I've just got a lead for the Saturn, but I've got to send my Saturn off to a guy on eBay who modifies them to be region free and 60 hertz. I think what I'm trying to do this time with it though is I'm trying to focus on. So I was big on 16-bit. And the PlayStation 1, so Super Famicom, SNES, whatever you want to call it. That was my console, my favourite console. And I imported a PS1 from Japan when it first came out with a copy of Ridge Racer, which was pretty amazing. I don't know if I've ever told the story about that, but I got in a row with Computer Exchange. Computer Exchange are kind of like an exchange game, but they do mobile phones and stuff now. They used to be much better, but the problem is that because the pricing, but not just pricing, but the quality of stuff as well. I mean, I find it flabbergasting. I mean, like for a bit of ASMR, I watch. There's one guy in particular I really like he's a big retro game collector, and he goes around all the shops in Japan, and I can't believe it. Like even the cardboard box stuff is like mint condition, and there's thousands of them. And I think to myself, those Japanese guys or whatever, guys and girls, I mean, they really knew, they really took care of their stuff. Whereas here, it's just a mess. Like the quality of it is just a mess. Yeah, and the pricing, obviously, which is crazy. It's an investor's pricing, investor's market at the moment, not a games or a collector's. A collector's market. But I'm picking up bits here and there, but I'm kind of concentrating on consoles that I never really like. About the 32-bit console point after the PlayStation, I mostly switched over to PC gaming predominantly. So, and then when EverQuest came out, when Ultraman Line came out, that was kind of it really. But I did collect again recently, but I just went to the Super Famicom. So then what happens is you end up collecting just your favourite same games that you've already played, so. But the Sega Saturn was a console that I always really liked looks of for its sprite-based capabilities particularly. And I've already got one of those, so that's fine. I've got a PS1 as well, so that's fine. But the other thing that the other console that I never really got into at all, which is the biggest console of all time, was a PS2. We had one. I think the boys played it more than I did, probably like FIFA or something, you know. But it mostly passed me by, and it's just got an absolute crazy library of games. So what I'm currently in the market for is a slim PS2 with a particular SCHP number or serial number, I guess, because there's a memory card you can buy that you plug in. Well, you need two memory cards, but there's one that you plug in, and it essentially, because I didn't know, but on the PS2 it's the CD drive itself that is region locked. Oh shit. A bit more like a chew here. Yeah, it's a CD drive itself that's region locked, and there's a memory card you can buy that basically unlocks it so you can play region free stuff. But the mod only works with certain, and it's good for me because I don't have to do any soldering or anything, so I can just you know. So yeah, PS2 is what I'm looking at getting into. Hey Jim, how you doing? Oh, nice. Actually, what we've got now is, not sure if I'll die or not though. What we've got now is there's some, even though like if you were in Japan, like you could, most of the stuff was reasonably priced. I think from a fair point of view. The price of retro games now is ridiculous. There's absolutely no reason for it from a demand point of view, but it is what it is. But Japan have started marketing their stuff based on what Westerners are willing to pay for it. You know, yeah. But even so, there are a few big Japanese stores now that ship worldwide, and you can still buy stuff on there for the consoles cheaper than people are selling much worse condition ones for on eBay. You know, crazy. Yes, mate. Yes, I kind of feel that that's going to be the thing that I invested, the game I invested time in most, I would say, over the coming period. Yep. A couple of things I'm not sure about, like the not releasing Velius thing, kind of rubs me up the wrong way from a continuity point of view. There's still going to be some stuff that's going to be like group orientated or raid orientated, which feels a bit weird. It feels a bit weird having 99% of a game aimed at kind of, you can group if you want, but it's kind of really aimed at soloing. But then you have end game stuff that you can't do that. I don't know. Maybe you can if you get the right build or whatever, I guess, you know. Yeah, but other than that, I kind of feel that it's almost like assuming that assuming they get Kunark out reasonably within time, even if it's within the normal timeline, you know, and the content comes out. Yeah, I think essentially it's almost infinite content. I would say. I think just from if you're into building characters, if you're into builds and metagaming and stuff from a class point of view, yeah, I kind of feel that the amount of combinations you've got when you throw in all the AAs and all the other stuff that's in there, you know, you probably do some crazy stuff. Yeah, see, for me, like I guess I'm not sure if I'm a retro snob, but the PS3 and the Xbox 360 are kind of around about where I draw the line. I mean, I've never had a PS4 or a PS5. I don't want one. I play on PC, you know. I know there's some exclusives, but who wants Sony exclusive anymore? In the same way, who wants Xbox exclusive? I don't, you know. It's just AAA gaming trash, really, for the most part. Even in my beloved Nintendo, you know, I used to be a big Nintendo fanboy. I mean, they've just become a shadow of their former self. I think probably because of Western influence, you know, unfortunately. I've actually got an original Xbox here, like the original one, but I haven't plugged it in for ages. I think it might be modded, like homebrew. I can't remember. But I have got myself, I did buy myself a Sony Trinitron CRTV. That's been my kind of present to myself this year. So, yeah, I need to get, and I've got the Saturn SCART cable, so I need to get that set up. PS3 and Xbox 360, I think, were, I mean, I'm always going to be like a 16, 32-bit boy, really. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that they were the last great consoles, like the Xbox 360. Like how company can go from the absolute just force that the Xbox 360 was, and they just the fantastic games it held on it, to like where they are now is it's phenomenal, really. Well, I think we kind of know why they got there, but we'll save that for another day. I think while I'm still going, yeah, but Secrets is now working on EverQuest Legends, so I don't know. Yeah, 360. I had a PS3 as well, which I loved for certain exclusives. I love, because I've still got it around here somewhere. I had the original fat PS3, so it played PS2 games really well as well. Yeah, but I think 360 PS3 was in that era really where it was. Well, it's kind of like I mean, I know people get triggered by this sort of stuff, but I enjoy watching Crowcat, his videos, and he doesn't talk in videos, but he just edits videos together, and there's quite a few that cover the state of gaming now, and he I think one of the ones that I kind of think said it all really was the original Halo developers interviewing with them, talking about Halo and their development mentality towards Halo, and then it would flip between the Destiny developers, and yeah, the difference between them. It was yeah, it's pretty eye-opening. And I know there's some some people from a certain crowd will go, oh yeah, well, the original developers, they were all just like white men, it's all toxic and stuff, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't all like that, but you got Halo, so those are the people that played their games. Yeah, 360 I had. That was big with my two boys as well. I think we played that quite a lot. PS2, I think we had a PS2 as well. But I was mostly probably gaming on EverQuest at that time. I can't remember exactly when the PS2 came out. Because it would have been early 2000s, was it? I'm not sure. I've got I was looking through some of my old magazines back in the day, and it's funny how a lot of this stuff goes back with regards to the meme about journalism and gaming journalism and all the ideological stuff, even going back to like some of my early Edge magazines, which like Edge at the time was considered like I don't know, it was like the Observer or something of gaming. It was a bit more than just some people sitting around going, oh yeah, I love this game, You know, it was supposed to be a bit more educated, a bit more culturally kind of relevant and whatnot. But one of the magazines I went has got the review for Doom in it, and I remember it being quite controversial at the time. But in a FPS, their one of their negatives was you just run around shooting stuff. Kind of, and there was quite a few things like that back in the day. I remember now about some of the stuff that these magazines used to say, which almost led you to believe that that people who get into journalism, gaming journalism, were never actually gamers in the first place. They just they wanted to be journalists, but no one else would have them, so they got into gaming. Yeah, you just go around shooting stuff. That's literally one of their criticisms. Just yeah, it was quite funny. Okay, mate, take it easy. What are you having for lunch? I'm assuming nice bottle of wine, nice cheeses and stuff. That's what I want for lunch. Mozzarella, nice tomato, nice big juicy tomatoes, Italian style. Anyway, mate, have a good one. I looked at my time then. Actually, I thought it was. Oh, is it lunchtime? I remembered that Italy is an hour in front. So no, it's not. Not yet. Sometimes I completely you lose track of time, like both ways. Like on Sunday, on Saturday morning we went out early. No, Sunday morning we went out early we drove down to. There's a place called Pegwell Bay. I live on like the Kent coast. There's a place called Pegwell Bay. It's like a massive nature reserve. Absolutely fabulous there. We went there early, had a wander around. My wife picked some flower seeds and stuff or whatever it was. And we came back and we were doing some stuff around the house. I don't know what I was doing. I said, "So, would you fancy a glass of wine?" she said, should we get on the wine? And she said, "It's at 10 o'clock in the morning." I said, "Is it?" I thought it was after midday. Completely lost the time, we did then. Yeah, we was talking about that earlier, mate, and I think that's one of the big blind spots of what I guess what we would call classically inspired MMO development is that I think that there's a chasing of an audience that like it isn't there anymore. This is not even subjective. As someone who's been doing this for a long time now, I've spoken to a lot of people, and the majority of people say what you say, is that my life now is at a point where I don't know what I started fighting this for. I played EverQuest back in the day and I love it, etc., but I just don't have the time anymore. Because there's not enough of a degree of like time separation. It's like what I was saying earlier was that say you're a teenager back in 1999 and you had a PC, you played it with your dad or whatever it was. Then like now, well, you're going to be 40, maybe older. You're going to have kids who are maybe at school, maybe they're teenagers, depending how old you are and stuff. I think that it's a real blind spot. I think that although it's I think the issue is that what we're getting is not I don't think anyone would say like classic EverQuest respected your time, but I definitely think it respected your time in a sense that there were no barriers essentially. So you could effectively say I can't play classic EverQuest anymore. I don't have the time, and that's fair enough. But you could definitely pick a class where it's a necromancer or druid, whatever, something easy that where you could still make some progress. I think. But kind of what I see with a lot of the indie MMOs that are being developed is that there's more barriers in the way. Things take longer. And a lot of barriers don't even kind of really make sense. I don't think, particularly. I don't think that they, they're not part of the classic design that we know. I kind of feel that you almost have to do the opposite. Like if you are going to change stuff, then just say to people, okay, we're going to make certain things easier or less time consuming, But the weird thing is, as I said, I don't know if you were here when I said it earlier, but there aren't any winners at the moment. That's a weird thing. And people just seem to be, there's certain people that seem to be happy for that just to be the case, Like there aren't enough people playing these indie MMOs to play them as an MMO. That's just fact. You can log in and check. It's not, I'm not being negative for the sake of it. That's how it is. But then there's a core audience that each of these games have got that just seem they would rather kind of defend the game and the development team than actually kind of say, yeah, there's a real issue here that I don't know, like maybe that's kind of what everyone wants, everyone involved. Maybe that's what the developers want. Maybe they don't want a load of players in their game. It's kind of like it's a kind of like a big fish in a small pond type thing. Maybe these core player base, they want to be a face. They want to log in every day. They want people to recognise them. They want to recognise the same people. They don't want new people coming in. That kind of thing. Hey mate, how you doing? Yeah, I know I stream at weird times probably for a lot of people, particularly if you're in America, I guess. Yeah, I think Legends will kind of probably it would definitely be my game of choice for the foreseeable future. I think that I still kind of wait and I still hope that we get a classic MMO that that's not solo focused and it kind of and it yeah and it adheres to the design philosophy of those games. But until that happens, I'll probably play Legends. I've actually spoken to quite a few people actually who said to me I'd got burnt out on EverQuest and I thought I'd had enough. Like I hadn't played it for ages, but I've tried Legends and I'm just addicted again. But that's not surprising, because when Hero's Journey was around, that had by far the biggest population, I think, of people playing an EverQuest game. Whether you consider it an EverQuest game or not, I don't know. You know, yeah, but a game based on EverQuest, it was by far the most popular server. I couldn't believe how many people were playing it, actually, when I logged in. It was literally like I would log in at any time of the day, off peak, and you'd run through. You know, you'd go to the marketplace, the bazaar, or whatever it was called. Was the bazaar? Did the bazaar come in Planes of Power? I can't remember. And there were hundreds of people around, literally swarming with people. And these weren't just people who logged in and left themselves logged in. They're all running around doing stuff, you know, and porting somewhere else and whatever. It was, I couldn't believe it. I looked and I thought, holy shit, this is where all the people that were playing P99 have gone. Oh, fucking hell. Just like loads of them. And people said to me for ages, you must play Hero's Journey, you must play Hero's Journey. I'm like, you know, I guess I was being a bit precious at the time, a bit snobby, you know. I think the key thing with Legends, and I think the key thing also with Hero's Journey, was that I think people need to get it out of their head that because it's solo and because you can pick 3 classes, it's just going to be easy and boring. It's not. You know, the game allows you to choose your difficulty level for every zone, I think. So you can tailor your difficulty. I mean, I was doing some Black Burrow level difficulty 4 the other day. Yeah, and like it was just a completely different experience. Yeah, it was like when it closed down, I was so gutted because I thought that's it. Like we're never going to see it. But this is different actually. In some aspects, like the leveling is slower, definitely slower. I would say that the difficulty challenge is probably higher, but the difference was the Hero's Journey kind of had all the expansions out, so you had all the stuff, you know. And I think it was probably even more tuned towards being a solo experience. There were loads of AAs and all sorts of things that just made you a powerhouse. I think it's the same here to a certain extent, but because it's at the moment it's just classic, you know, the power level is restricted to a certain extent. Yeah, and Hero's Journey had loads of bells and whistles. It had, like when I'd go to the bazaar, there were all these people with all these pet models I'd never seen before. I'm not sure if they were just from later expansions or if they were like custom models or whatever, I don't know, but there's all sorts of stuff. I think what you have to do is I've said this before again, I know, as I said before, you can just go and watch any stream of mine. It's probably just repeat, but you can tailor your experience. You know, you don't have to do like because you're playing Hero's Journey and it's got all the expansions and you can just level to 50 whatever and that's it. You don't have to do that. You know, you can just, like when I played Hero's Journey, I purposely played in classic zones, got to 50, then I moved on, you know, to Kunark and Velius or whatever. You can tailor your experience. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be that mindless get to the end experience quickly. You just have to tailor it to yourself to a certain extent. It's like I did it with classic MMOs, like the modern MMOs, like before. I mean, I was playing New World quite a lot before they announced it was closing down, and I leveled a new character, and I just put a load of restrictions on myself that made it feel more like I wasn't playing such a modern MMO. You know, that's all you got to do. It's kind of like when I see people like complaining about, you know, like nighttime darkness in the game in MMOs now. It just feels like such a like low hanging fruit type thing to be to be complaining about, because everyone from that point of view, the thing is you can negate it now just through your graphics cards software anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. But you have the option. So if you want to play where it's dark, then you can do that. You don't have to turn the gamma slider up or something. The fact that someone else is doing it, I don't understand why that detracts from your experience. Maybe they've got bad eyesight, you know. Maybe they can't play the game unless they've got gamma to turn up. Just, you know, whatever. It's like I think there is a tip off. I think there's a tipping point. But I don't really care about like cash shops in games, to be honest. Obviously, there's a point where it reaches a point where they're trying to exploit people with like gambling addiction. You know, like buy this box for our game and you might get a rare weapon. You know, that's, although you could argue that it's just the same as Pokemon, really. But yeah, like I don't care if someone can buy a potion that doubles their XP gain. It doesn't affect me in any way, because I'll just play the game how I want to play the game. If they get to end game in a day and they get bored, well then that's, you know, that's their choice. It was never but, you know, I'm not sure if this makes sense or not, but I wouldn't want that in classic EverQuest. I think that's the difference, I think, with the development now. It's, if you say you're doing classic, I want classic. I don't want your classic, I want classic. Because classic is the best. It's just as simple as that. Nothing you do to change it, whatever you're including or changing, is going to make it any better. Because that's the best. If you want to do like a load of horizontal content for players to engage in, then that's fine. But the core is the core, and, you know. But I don't know. I was about to say that I kind of feel like I'm a minority, but let's go back to what we said about populations of the games. You know, when you log into a game and there's like 20, 30 people in an MMO, I think it's probably the majority that feel that way rather than... Yeah, I mean, you do it in single player games, don't you? I mean, I've played single player games. It's like playing a shoot 'em up for score, or you can play it for how far you get. Some, you know, speed running. It's I do kind of agree that people don't seem to be. It's just the fact that something's in a game, you know, and they can ignore it, but they kind of can't. You know, it's like oh, there's a map. Oh, someone put a map in. That's not classic. Okay, we just don't use it. No, it's not classic. And then they kind of go off on one. And then you say, well, you do realise that, like, within this game that you're moaning about a map, there are loads of other systems that are not classic as well. But it's almost like, because you don't have a problem with those systems, it's okay. So you're focusing on a map. You know, it's... Do you know what? You know what, Jim? I can't feel sorry for them anymore. I can't. You know, it's what I said before. It's like you're repeating the same process over and over and again, and you're expecting a different outcome. That's insanity. You know, if you're developing an MMO now, and you're saying that you're catering it to a classic MMO market, and you're making the same mistakes that the other games keep making, and people keep saying that the mistakes they're making, but you do it anyway, I just don't have any. I don't have any. Yeah, I find it difficult to have any sympathy. Really, it's kind of, you kind of dig in your own hole. Really, you know, it's It's. I mean, I think 50 is probably generous now. I mean, I played a little bit at the beginning of the year. I was maybe 50 is peak. I mean, I was logging in sometimes, and it was like less than literally like single figures, you know, and obviously no one's playing it as an MMO anymore. You're just kind of treating it as a single player game essentially, which is I think is the reason why Hero's Journey and EverQuest Legends have been so popular, because it's like when people used to say, if you want a solo, why don't you play a single player game? Why don't you play a single player role playing game? But the reason I don't want to play a single player role playing game is because a single player role playing game is a single player role playing game with all the design choices that they make around that. It's not an MMO. Like playing an MMORPG and playing it solo is completely different from playing a single player RPG. It's just completely different. Because even if you're playing it solo and that's how you want to do it, the world is still more dynamic. You've still got other players around, you know, so that we're having an impact on the world. So it's completely, and also the content is obviously different as well. You know, it's if you think of going into a dungeon in EverQuest, even if you're going in solo, there isn't a single player game that emulates that depth of experience, which is weird. Maybe it's just too much design or whatever. But it's weird how simplified single player games feel from like a dungeon diving aspect or whatever it may be. Certain games may be like the Baldur's Gate games, but it kind of feels a bit different. Even games in the first person, like a Dungeon Master, Item Holder, and stuff. It's kind of a dungeon crawl, I guess, but it's still pretty basic in comparison. Yeah, I never understood that. That was another one of those coping comments. That was another one of those. That was another one of those design things where there's a certain group of people, a certain group of MMO players, and you still see it now, who for some reason they've blanked out the part where the classic MMOs were designed in a way to be soloable as well. I've said it before, like if you look at the official guide for the original EverQuest release, you know, some of the class choices tell you whether they're good at being at grouping or good at soloing. I think they say good at adventuring alone, you know, so that it was taken into consideration. But there's a group of players who don't want that. They don't want their MMO to be soloable in any way. They want all the content to be group content, because why would you solo in an MMO? And that just feels like a low IQ take. Like if you can play EverQuest and then you can play The Witcher or Baldur's Gate and not see a difference in design and not see why someone might prefer an MMORPG design, even from a single point of view, then I think that you're, you know, kidding yourself. How you doing, Liz? Yeah, I'm hoping AI has a big impact on game design. We do, absolutely. And everyone does to a certain extent, and everyone is doing it currently in a lot of the MMOs because there are not enough people to get groups. So most people are logging in and doing stuff on their own. HB, nice one. I won't ask your age, obviously. We stand by tradition here. Yeah, I think AI is hopefully has a positive impact. The one thing, again, I think it's obviously it's a resources thing, you know. But the one thing, what I want. Oh, you're younger than me. Nice. The one thing I think is lacking in single player games at the moment is some games have come quite close, like I think the vanilla version of Cyberpunk. But I don't think we've still got kind of real worlds that feel really alive, if you know what I mean. I think we're still kind of limited by technology to a certain extent. but that's what I'm hoping for. Like really intelligent NPCs wandering around, going about their own. We've got that emulated, but it's not really, you know. Yeah, things like that world, filling out the world as well. Like even in a game like Cyberpunk, you know, pretty much you can't go in pretty much 99% of the buildings. There's nothing in them. You know, they're just there for show and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think from a single player point of view, from a AAA point of view, I think the next thing that I would like to see is ramping up the world detail, and just AI getting better, essentially. No, mate, not at all. No, it doesn't ring a bell. Was it one of those kind of like 3D, living out your 3D world kind of environments type thing? Living out your life, living out your 3D life kind of thing or was it a game? You said play, so I'm assuming it's a game. Oh. I think in MMOs, I think the next step for me would be like a like a real sense of adventure or survival in a massive open world, but actually like a real sense of survival and travel. So I guess it's probably unrealistic, but so like the world is so big that like if I had to travel from Freeport to Kinos, you know, then that would actually take a period of real time travel. But obviously, the tricky thing here is that the world's got to be populated as well. You know, so they've got to come up with some technology that can create that world and populate it with interesting content. I'm not sure if AI can help do that. Maybe. I think that would be what I'd like to see, even in a single player game. You know, like something like I don't know, an open world game like The Witcher or Fallout or whatever, which is impressive, obviously, but I kind of like to feel like I was really experiencing, I was really surviving, really traveling. I was having to stop off at safe places and stuff. There's real danger in the world of you kind of just dying, you know. So there were like inns and places of little towns and stuff where you maybe at night you can risk it, but you've got to, you know, it's a risk. I think these are all yellow still, probably, and I don't think I can kill them. I've kind of got to go anyway, actually, because I've got some things to do. I was working from home today, so we've got some work to do and that kind of thing. Yeah, so bit of M&M, you know, like I know I've been a bit of a miserable moany git again, but you know, but I don't know what to say that we haven't already said, really. You know, it's I think the indie MMO development sphere is kind of stuck in a place that, yeah, is just not resonating much. And I know that we can all say, well, this game, this is the game, this game's going to be the next one, or that game's going to be the next one, or whatever, you know. But I don't know. Having a moan is so British, exactly. You know, I don't know. I kind of feel that my experience of talking to you and the player base, I kind of just feel that majority of people now are in a different spot, you know, and I just don't think from a design point of view, I just don't think that like I would kind of like to see the nuts and bolts of EverQuest incorporated into a game, but there was just like more horizontal content, you know. So so a developer can put all of their ideas in, but at the core, it's at the core it's that those are the values that it's built with. And I know I've spoken about like what you might think are small things, you know, like having level restrictions on equipment. For me, that's completely out. That's breaking the terms of service of a classic spirit of classic. You know, like and I'm not saying that this game or any other game's doing that, but I've heard it talked about a lot. You know, like locking out content if a player's too high. You know, because people are going, oh, I went to Worm's Bane and there's a level 50 camping, a level 20 mob. You know, well, yeah, suck it up. That's classic. You know, that's how it is. That's the spirit of it. That's the core nuts and bolts of it, and all those kind of little things, little mechanics that get changed to lose the feel of that. That's what I would like to see. Like I would like to see I'd like to see a game developed where the core sandbox combat experience is really just go and have fun. Just go and play with shit and have fun. I'm not restricting you in any way. Go and have fun. Go and do what you want in the world. If you're good enough, if you work something out, do it. Obviously, you know, if you go into Sleeper's Tomb and you one-shot everything, that's a problem. And I'm going to have to balance that. You know, if you come up with an exploit like that, I'm going to have to balance that. But if you want to go and camp a level 10 mob when you're level 60 for an item, you can do that. If I've designed a dungeon that's levels 50, 50 plus, and you're level 60 and you've worked out how to get around the dungeon and you can solo some names and stuff, as long as it doesn't feel like you're exploiting it in any way, if you're using the mechanics I've given you, I'm happy with that. Like, I'm not going to nerf you. If you get a fungi tunic and you want to give it to your level 1 twink, I'm happy with that. That's fine. There's no need to restrict that. It doesn't affect anyone else. In fact, in my experience on P99, when I was in a group and someone joined the fungi, everyone went, yes! Because their leveling was speed up. It didn't affect it in any way, unless you were a miserable bastard like me. It never affected it in any way. And Enchanter Charming, and going around dungeons solo and killing names and stuff, that shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't be moaning about that. If you're moaning about that, go and play WoW. I'm going to say it. This game's not for you. That's what Classic is all about. Just go and do it. If you do some shit that's shit, then I might have to step in. But otherwise, I'm hands off. You know, if you want to give your twink a bastard sword of slaying all the shit in the world plus 10, then do it. I don't care. That's the Classic principle. So I'd like to see that, but then the extra development would be like loads, as I said, loads of horizontal content. So trading, crafting, you know, maybe new ways of progressing your character, you know, that kind of thing. Maybe each class has got its own flavour for that kind of thing or whatever. But I think the spirit of it is that they're almost like no reins kind of holding you back really to what you can do. There's no one going on Discord going, oh, well, this guy was charming this, and I think that's too powerful. We shouldn't be allowed to do that. And then they change it. And because balancing charm anyway must be quite difficult, it always makes it worse. And it makes it shit and not fun anymore. So at that point, so what's the point of having it then? You know, I don't know. I think I've said before, I think we've forgotten that in single player games as well. Like the amount of single player games that I've played in the last 5 years that are just constantly having balance patch changes like every week. And I'm like, this is a single player game. Like, what the hell are you doing? It's crazy. Yeah. I know I'm just repeating myself. Yeah. I think there's a slippery slope. Like I think when I was watching the M&M stream the other day, dev stream, where you've got this locking out thing, where a group gets locked out if another group engages first. I don't know. Maybe like if everything else is open ended and you can do what you want, that's probably fine. But I kind of think that's a slippery slope. You know, if you give that to the players, then they're going to want more. You know, they're going to want to stop the level 60s going into a level 20 dungeon. You know, they're going to want to stop some dude giving his level 1 a fungi tunic. I think it starts like that, and then people just keep on moaning and it snowballs. You know, it's just yeah, I don't understand it. Like I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. And the problem with that as well is that all what you get is what we've got now, where all the games everything just feels the same. Like if you build an RPG and all the classes kind of feel the same with regards to ability, it's just, you know. And it's funny because I remember back in the day, I think it was when Brad was still around, and there was an interview, like not with Brad but with Jopper, I think, who's the lead designer now. Like he was like, people asked him a question about, someone asked him, and it was like, oh, like a class is going to be better at soloing. That's not fair. And he was like, I don't give a shit. Like if we create the classes and the Necro is better at soloing than other classes, then just suck it up, buttercup, you know. But that seems to have changed now with a lot of the design, you know, where everything feels the same. Like I was playing a few different classes, but they all feel the same because they all roughly have the same power level. And to get that, it just makes it feel boring and homogenized, you know. Yeah, like classes don't have their identity anymore. It's like, I don't understand the mentality, you know. It's like I used to watch, I said before, I used to watch, like back in the heyday of P99, like I'd watch like Nibris and Tecmos and all that kind of thing. Soloing stuff, like you get Nibris soloing Siren's Grotto and all that sort of stuff. And not once did I think to myself, I'm going to go onto Discord and go, oh, there's this guy called Nibris and he's selling all this stuff and I don't like it. It's not fair. You know, it's like, what the fuck? I enjoyed watching it. It was educational for me, even though I'll never be able to do it. Like I just don't have I don't have the hand coordination or the like, if this happens, then do this kind of brain anymore that I used to have. But yeah, I don't understand that. I don't like charms, so I don't like slow. I don't like complete heal, so, you know, I mean, fucking babies, honestly. But that's kind of what we're left with, though, isn't it, I think, really? It's like, we seem to be left with a group of people dominating the indie MMO scene or the classic MMO scene who, as I said, they don't really like them. They never like them. What they want is they want the game tailored to themselves. You know, they want a game that's got all the things that they liked in it and all the things they didn't like not in it. You know, yeah, it is. It's aspirational, isn't it? You know, you watch it, and even though you think to yourself, I can never do it, I'm happy there's someone doing it. And I remember having a conversation with an enchanter once, and I won't mention any names, but he said to me that there are people even better, but they don't make content. He said there are enchanters that he knows, who he talks to, that are even better than these guys, but they don't make content. They just go about their game playing it because they know that there's people that are just babies. And unfortunately, the babies are the vocal minority who go on Discord and, you know, all those kind of people. And I don't, but I kind of feel that it's, as I say, I kind of feel that it can be propagated by the developers as well, who don't really. It's kind of like when that mega thread started on the M&M Discord about charm. Like if it was me, like honestly, in the most polite way, I would say, okay, well, sorry, that's how it is. It's like, I don't want to, you know, because you don't like it. Like, I don't want to start having to try and balance charm around what you want. You know, I'm going to do what I think is fun for the player. because essentially, let's be honest, like, some of the classes in M&M are literally copied one to one from EverQuest, and the people coming from P99 or wherever and playing an Enchanter are probably those guys, those guys who are playing the Enchanter, and they're coming here for a similar experience, and they get here and someone's like, oh, I don't like it, and then the developers think, oh, okay, well, we'll look at it and we'll see what we can do. And I imagine it must be difficult trying to balance charm anyway, right? Because of all the RNG involved and stuff. But it's, as I said before, it's just, I just think if you end up in a mentality where you're restricting your design too much because some people are complaining, and I'm not saying that they're doing this, by the way, maybe they're not, maybe they don't want to go onto Discord and just fuck off, maybe they don't, obviously don't want to do that. Although I've seen Sean do that occasionally, so I don't know, but yeah, it's I don't know. Well, I think that's why. Yeah, no. Do you know what, Liz? I was talking about that earlier as well. Like, it was on the. I don't get involved in leaving messages or whatever anymore on Discord or videos. I did leave a message on the recent M&M video, but I just removed it then because I just thought, what's the point? It wasn't a rude message. It was just, But there was someone on the EQ Legends Discord, and he said, it was, I don't understand why, I thought this was supposed to be a casual game. I don't understand why there's all these tryhards around. And so they've equated an EverQuest game designed around being solo as being casual. That's bullshit. Actually, from the point of view of systems in the game, it's much more complicated than P99. You've now got 3 classes and 3. If you pick 3 casters, you've got 3 lots of three different classes of spells to deal with, and there are some AAs in the game which increase your spell gem bar, but it's only up to 14. So if you pick a mage, a wizard, and a necro, good luck with that. It's much more complicated. But this person has just got into their head that, oh, I thought this was the casual version of EverQuest. Like, why are all these sweaties here? Well, because it's EverQuest and it's an MMO. Every MMO's got sweaties. That's just how it works. I couldn't believe it. It was in the tip of my tongue to say, like solo orientated doesn't mean it's casual orientated. It just means that an individual person can log in and do more, but there's still a challenge and there's still lots of complexity, more complexity than P99 in my opinion, because there's loads of new items and all the items have got loads of effects and abilities on them as well. So it's like a minefield. If you like building stuff and you get a bit autistic about it, it's like a fucking minefield. Particularly playing it in 4K at the moment because I'm trying to read everything and I'm having to squint at the screen to read what all the abilities do. Yeah, that mentality as well, where people just don't think that. I've seen it in Monster Memories as well. Like early on when I first joined the game, there were people who literally thought there wouldn't be a raid scene. I've literally saw people in chat say, "Oh, well, this game's not going to be like that. There's not going to be a raid scene," and I'm like thinking, what in the world are you living in? Like, because the developers are interacting with you and they're chill and they sit around and they chat and stuff, that doesn't mean that the game's not going to be competitive. But I just think that's just, I think that's just some people. As I said before, I'm. It sounds like I'm accusing them of something that I'm doing, but I'm not. I'm just. It's about the 4th time I've said it, more than that probably. But there's just a group. There's a minority of vocal people who want people to think they believe they're part of the classic MMO gang, but they didn't really like them and they want it tailored to what they want. And that's not what I want. Like, I want classic MMOs, including all the shit that I don't like, because as I said, that's how it goes, Yeah, Jim, it's what we were saying earlier. It's like if you go into an MMO, any MMO, modern MMO, and that's your mindset, then that's the experience you're going to have. But it's not. But like EverQuest Legends is like, believe me, it's really challenging. I mean, I eased myself into Blackburrow, and I went +1, I went +2, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to go +4, and I went +4. Yeah, and considering the game is designed around you killing yellows roughly to be the most efficient, like if you pull a couple of yellows, or if you get a bad pull +4, you're dead. Simple as. And also, like I literally got one-shotted. There was a bad pull, and there were 3 mobs. And what the game does really cleverly is that as you go up in difficulty, the mobs become multi-class. So I pulled and I got 3, and it's like one of them's a warrior necro, one of them's a fucking monk shaman, and one of them was like a paladin wizard. Literally, I literally died in one round. I was like, fucking hell. It was like I got hit by 3 spells at once, you know, and it was like shit. it's but I think that's why something like Hero's Journey and EQ Legends has got so much longevity to it. Like really, and the thing is as well is that the mobs don't spawn the same. So like I was camping a mob +4, and sometimes he would spawn, I don't know, paladin wizard, then he would spawn warrior druid, then he would spawn as something else. So it seems to be random as well. So it's not like you don't get the same experience like every time, you know. You know, but I'm not here to crap on indie MMOs and big up EverQuest Legends. You know, I just think we've all reached that point where whether people want to believe it or not, you know, and I've spoken to a lot of people. I think we've all reached that point where maybe we're burnt out, maybe we're coming into these games and we're expecting something and we're not getting them, and maybe we believe we want to have more time to play these games because maybe we think that the next indie MMO is going to respect our time a bit more, and we come into it and it kind of doesn't really, you know. It's like yeah, I don't know what you guys ever thought about the level speed of leveling in on P99, which I think is probably as close to classic as you can get, I guess. I don't know what you guys thought about that. Like, I don't know if most of you are now don't play P99 because you're burnt out, or if, I mean, would most people consider that speed of leveling kind of about right? You know, would that be good? I don't know, because some games have moved away from that and made it slower than that. Emma's Adrift is an example of that. Yeah, I don't know if and I kind of feel that probably most of you would say that it probably is, and at the same time I think most of you would probably say that I don't know, like maybe if you could log into an MMO and you could feel like whatever the situation was, you could log in and make some progress. Maybe, I don't know. You know, I guess it's all a balancing, but it's, yeah, I don't know. It's those were kind of the key things that came up when I did that poll a couple of years ago, where I think most people are fair in that they understand they're playing a classic MMO, but also they want to feel that there's, I hate to use the phrase, I've used it already, but you know, understanding that it's a classic MMO, but also feeling that the game is respecting their time. You know, I hate that phrase, but I'll use it. Or it's allowing them to make, irrespective of what because the game state is the important thing. You know, can you log into a game? Can you log into an MMO and make progress, even if the game state is not, what's the word I'm looking for? Say the game state is not allowing you to play it as an MMO because of population or whatever it may be. Does the game still allow you to log in and feel like you're making progress? And when I say feel like you're making progress, I mean you actually feel like you log off after a couple of hours and say, "Oh, actually, I'm quite happy with that." You know, I don't know. I mean, that's the challenge that. Well, I think they've kind of dropped the challenge. Really, maybe it was never a challenge, but that's a challenge. That's the situation that the MMOs below Monster Memories have got is that they're now faced with a situation where their games are not performing as MMOs. You know, so people are having to log in and play them as a single player game. And I mean, I was playing Project Gorgon the other day, and there was a couple of people. There was someone particularly in chat who's always talking in chat. He's one of those people, and he was complaining that recently they've made some systems a bit more solo friendly. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't know what do you want? What do you want them to do? You know, I kind of wonder if sometimes developers feel that they might like to go that way a bit more, just so the people in the games can do more with lesser people available, but they're scared to because, you know. Yeah, well, I didn't know. It's like, what do you say? You know, it's kind of like if you're someone who wakes up and plays Project Gorgon every day and you're in a guild, well, obviously those issues are not going to affect you because maybe you can always do that. You know, if you log in the morning off peak and there's 25 people on and 10 of them are in your guild, well, yeah, fine, but that's not. So what you're basically saying is that the only people that can play the game are the ones who can have the same experience as you, which seems unreasonable, I think, probably. So all these games currently that have come and gone, that's the problem they've got. You know, it's like, and there is a player base that understands that, but they move on. You know, it's if you frequently, I don't do it anymore, but when I would frequent the Embers Adrift Discord, it was always a discussion. Look, like I want to play the game, but I can't. There's no one online to do stuff that I want to do or that I need to do. So what do we do? You know, and the core group, the dozen or so players, always the same ones, will just, like, you know, sidestep the issue, or they'll try and blame the player. They'll say things that I can always get a group, which is so unhelpful, you know. If you've logged in and there's 12 people on and you log out and someone says that is just so unhelpful. You know, I don't know. We've gone over all this before, you know, and we're kind of in the same situation again. You know, and I'm sure that there are those of you out there watching who think that X and Y games going to be different, and maybe the developers are you know, no, they feel that it's going to be different. Because of X, Y, and Z or whatever it is, but you've got to hit it right first time. That's the problem, you know. But the other thing that I've noticed as well, or that many of you have said to me, is that you don't. If you play a game and it doesn't hit the mark pretty early on, then you don't go back for the most part. I think the most popular thing in the polls that I did was like we'll keep an eye on the patch notes. And if something changes, maybe we'll then go back and give it another go. But for the most part, there's so many other things. There's so much other shit to occupy our minds nowadays that people just move on quickly to something else, you know, and they forget about it. Even like the people that seem really hardcore. Like I've seen people go from the Embers Adrift Discord, where I thought to myself, oh, this guy's a real twat. Where like anything that was even an inquiry about the game in any way that wasn't 100% positive, this person would be really toxic in Discord. Developers just let them get on with it, I guess. So they're promoting that kind of behavior. He was like a real hardcore, but then something must have happened, and he went to the Monster Memories Discord. And I've kind of seen it occasionally, not so much there, because I think maybe they monitor it a bit more. But it's the same person. So you got this person who was adamant Embers Adrift was the best game ever, loved it, loved the devs. Anyone who didn't like it was a X, Y, and Z. And then they're not playing it anymore. You know, I think that kind of tells you a lot about the mentality of this type of person that you get on Discord, and, you know, in the what used to be forums or whatever. Like, it's all too emotional. Like, people just can't take a step back and say, well, yeah, like I like Bob. You know, like I like Bob as a developer. Like, he does streams and he chats to us, and that's fine. I like him. He's a good bloke. I like the game as well. You know, but there's things about it that are not quite right with regards to what I was sold. you know, so I'm not going to tell other players that they're wrong just because I like Bob, and I do like Bob, but he doesn't mean he's right. You know, he can be wrong, and I'm not going to defend the game in an emotional way. I'm going to look at it logically. And what you kind of get from a content creation point of view, as someone who used to be a vaguely content creation type, is like, I don't like the middle ground is the worst. You know, like, and I understand that maybe there's someone who's chill and they don't want the hassle, but I almost kind of feel that the middle ground people, where they play a game and for whatever reason, I don't know, it's the same people who like the Fallout TV show. I've spoken about this before. They see a bobblehead and for some reason it just awakens something in them, and they're happy with that. But I think the middle ground is the worst. You know, I kind of feel that I'd like to see some of the content creators, particularly in the middle ground, who just play the game and vibe off of it. Like at least talk about something, at least talk about and examine the mechanics while they're playing, and give some opinion that's not just, oh, the game's got Spirit of Wolf, so that's fine, so I'm loving it. You know, like just have something to say. You know. Yeah, you see, but the like, I don't know if the mentality shifted in the design of the game, or if it was always a bit like it. But there's just discussions of stuff that for me are just not, you know, that are just not kind of. And I'm playing EverQuest Legends, right? So it's not like I'm tied to the fact that that every MMO has to be absolutely classic. But I'm playing EverQuest Legends with the understanding that I know what it is. And for a lot of these games when they're being developed, I'm not sure what they are. It's like, I know what they're telling me, but then there are all these systems that are not the same. I just, like, if I, maybe it's me just being too pig-headed, but if I'm coming to a game that's telling me it's inspired by classic EverQuest, then I just think that there are parameters that you have to sit within that made classic EverQuest what it was. And I don't think even think the parameters are unreasonable. It's fun. It's the fun of it. Like, I don't want to be restricted. I want to go out and be able to do whatever I want. And the only restriction is my character level and my ability as a player. I don't want you to implement arbitrary roadblocks that, you know, that stop me from doing something just because someone didn't like it. You know, I don't want to have an item that you can't get until you're level 60, and it's got some special magical ability that means if I give it to my level 1 character, he can't wear it. I don't want some fucking what's the hat of whatever in, I don't know what it is. You know, I don't want, that's not what I want. That's not what classic MMOs are about. You know, I don't want, and if it upsets someone because they don't think that, you know, a level 1 player should wear a fungi tunic, well then just go and play something else, because that's what we're here for. Like, I'm here for a classic experience. I'm not here for a classic experience changed by people who didn't like EverQuest or whatever, you know. Yeah, just I don't know. Well, the key thing that EverQuest Legends has got right is the feeling. So when I'm in Blackburrow, or I'm actually might log in this afternoon and pop over to, because I think that Nagina and Befallen have been updated as well. What I like about them is it's got all the feels visually and audibly. There's no sparkly, flashy graphic things that you wouldn't see on P99 or any of that sort of shit. Yeah, the UI is a bit different, but you can turn most of it off. Like you get like you know, what's it called? Bobbing combat damage and stuff above your head and stuff. But you can turn all that stuff off, really. I don't like the UI completely, but actually it does have some UI changes that you can change to fix everything. And also, I think you can also import skins as well, so you can kind of probably make it feel very. I mean, I changed it so that the icons were old classic icons. So that's what they've got right so far. Is got the feeling of a classic EverQuest experience, which is there was a little, yeah. I'm not sure, that probably needs work then, I guess. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Befallen. The Befallen had, you can turn all that off though, Liz, you know, so I literally turned everything off. So it feels pretty good. Blackburrow has that to a little bit, but not that much. Like sometimes in Blackburrow, if you pull a mob and there's a slope, it will kind of run backwards and forwards on the slope a bit, and eventually it will get over. Sometimes you'll pull a mob and it shouldn't do, but it paths towards another mob, so you end up with two. And if you're playing like +3, +4 difficulty, that can be a real pain in the arse. What I'm looking forward to with it is all the builds. Like, I'm so looking forward to just trying out loads of shit. Yeah, it's yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. But as I said, like, you know, I mean, Monster Memories, I'm still hopeful, but there's just stuff that I'm hearing and reading, and I don't know, I'm just not. It doesn't vibe with me, I guess. It's not within the spirit of what I'm looking for. And as I said, like, I'm playing EverQuest Legends, so I don't have to play an MMO that's an exact copy. But if you're telling me, then that's what. If you're telling me you're giving a classic experience, unfortunately for me, there are parameters that falls in, you know, and yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to go and have some lunch and stuff, I guess, or whatever. It's almost that time. Thanks for watching. You know, like I do, like, I apologise if you think that I'm moaning about your favourite MMO, or I apologise if anyone associated with these games feel like I'm moaning. Like, I'm really not. You know, I guess we just have different views on how a classic MMO should be developed, I suppose, you know, and how systems should work. I guess that's just like, you know, I just feel that, you know, with Ultra Online and EverQuest particularly, there was, you know, the restrictions felt natural. There wasn't anything arbitrary that took away from the experience. I mean, obviously there was raid content, but the thing is, you can still go into the raid content. You just got splatted. You know, there was nothing stopping you from doing it. You could still zone into zones on your own. You just get battered, you know. And as I said, like, there were some really good players who could zone into the plane of fear or the plane of hate and do some stuff on their own. That's fine. Like, you shouldn't restrict that sort of stuff. That is what made it. You know, that's how. Those are the sort of things that go down in legend. Do you remember that time where? I mean, I remember there's a guy on Twitch. I know he plays on and off. He's really good. And I think he came up with this thing where I'm going to get a bard to 60, and I'm going to try and do all the stuff that on my bard that, like, you see enchanters doing and stuff. And I don't know if he could do everything, but he did do some amazing stuff. And yeah, I don't know why you'd want to restrict that or stop someone from doing it. Now, because someone thinks it trivializes the content, or they don't like it because they can't do it. I don't, you know, it's kind of, yeah. Anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Victor